Hello.
Hello, friends. How are you?
Good. How are you?
How are you? Hello, Joshua. Hello, Thomas.
So happy to be
Hi, everyone. So, what are we talking about?
Amazing things.
Only amazing things. Absolutely. Okay, so I think we are online right now, and let's say welcome everyone. We're very honored to be here today in Startup Impact Summit in Hong Kong, and I wish we could be also physically in Hong Kong. Let me introduce my amazing it's not even a panel, co-friends from Berlin, Thomas and Joshua, and please introduce yourself.
Joshua, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Molly. It's great to be with you, Thomas. Hi, everybody. 大家好. 我很高兴认识你们. 谢谢. So I'm Joshua Haynes. I'm from the United States originally, back in the day, and I live now in Berlin with my family and have been here for a number of years. And I'm the managing partner of an impact fund called Masawa. And we focused exclusively on investments in companies that are looking to increase people's access to mental wellness. Thomas.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm a tech entrepreneur since more than 20 years, and I live between Berlin and Costa Rica. And in one of my main activities, or my main activity in Berlin or in general, is to do things towards making the planet a good place. And one activity this is revolving around is currently GITA, which stands for the Global Impact Tech Alliance. That's, I'm sure we will talk a little bit about during our conversation. Mali, time for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Baum, and as originally family is from Germany, but I was born in Tel Aviv, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I moved to Berlin with my family 6 years ago. And in Berlin, I'm actually running two companies. One company is called WLounge, which we call it an ecosystem. We actually build everything that I dreamed of when I started my first company. When early stage entrepreneur understand that they need to have an access to capital, they need to have an access to the clubs of the investors, to venture capitals, skills, mentorship. And this is what WLounge is doing. While I was working with China, of course, New York and Silicon Valley, and bringing those networks also to the German market today to uplift the, I would say, the ecosystem and bring more opportunities here. The other company, which we probably will talk about as well, it's called Magda Group, which is a fund of funds. After learning deeply what's happening today in Europe and specifically in Germany, we know that we need to see much more diversity. We need to have much more available capital for startup to grow. Probably people that are hearing this from Asia right now, we are talking about growth and capital in so much, I would say, different level when it comes to Asia and Europe. And this is also something we will touch here in the panel today. So, Joshua, maybe you will start and tell us, because when we met, you mentioned something very interesting, and what actually brought you to be such a traveler and a person that experienced so different cultures, what makes you so unique today, but eventually you understood that all of this gathered together while you are building a venture capital that focused on mental health.
You're muted, Joshua.
We cannot hear you, Joshua.
Somebody muted him, I think.
Okay. Someone can unmute Joshua. Okay. I will write him, but Thomas, maybe you will start with this. What makes you, you know, what do you think about Gita? But actually, you're not doing only Gita, so. That's
true. So yeah, I will just take over. But before I do that, I think there's a Q&A chat window.
Yeah.
Since this is an open conversation, I would like to invite everyone to post things here so that we can react to your questions and thoughts and suggestions. So let me try and build on what you asked Joshua. Maybe I didn't get around the world as much as Joshua. I don't speak any Chinese dialect. Spent a little bit of time in Hong Kong though, but that's not the right place to learn any Chinese. So when I think about technology and entrepreneurship and impact, seeing here Startup Impact Summit in the fourth screen, I believe that we are seeing evidence that our model of running civilization at the moment on the globe is not going in the right direction. We're bringing ecosystems towards collapse. We're seeing this currently in the COVID situation. There are other situations coming up, some of them potentially fast, some of them in the next couple of years. There are several predictions that by 2048, we cannot find fish anymore in our oceans. So it's a pretty severe situation. But I believe that we can still find ways of moving towards a new way of doing things. And the reason why I engage in things like Gita and all of my other activities is because I believe that it is a massive opportunity to start building the infrastructure that helps us create this new operating model of how we run our societies in the future. And I think this is still undervalued and not noticed enough, but it will be very likely a massive shift in power. So everybody who potentially starts building towards that right now, and we call that bucket impact, will be part of that new leading that model. So that's my general take. That's my general take on this.
Yeah. Hello, Joshua.
Hi,
everybody.
Joshua.
Nice to see you again.
I'm very happy
technology is great.
They made it super fast. Would you like to jump in and answer the question? Thanks.
Absolutely. So you asked me how I was able to work in 35 countries and learn lots of languages. Well, it came from my own need to escape my realities. I grew up in the United States on welfare, raised by a single alcoholic mother. And part of my coping mechanism for a lot of the issues that I dealt with throughout my life was running. So I got a scholarship to come to Germany in high school and realized I could learn languages, and then kind of got addicted to it. Traveled all over the world. I lived in Morocco and Ecuador and Niger, West Africa, China. And really, that was something that made me special. That was something that kind of helped me to be comfortable with myself. Fast forward a number of careers. I was in software development. I was in data analytics. I was a diplomat in the Obama administration, working all over the world on issues of technology and social entrepreneurship and civil society. I crashed and burned. I absolutely had a flail out. And my recovery, for me, what was important was to realize that mental health or mental wellness isn't just taking medications like Prozac. It's also not just going to a psychotherapist. There's a whole wide range of innovations that are in use and that can be used. And so given my experience in impact and measuring impact and making sure that we are trying to maximize the social impacts, and joining with a number of other investment-focused partners, came to the realization that we needed an impact fund that was focused exclusively on mental wellness. And kind of the three things that we see are really important is that we focus on founders' mental health. In most of our cultures, it's still really hard for us to talk about our own struggles with our head that's happening, even after COVID. You know, depression is the #1 cause of disability worldwide, and mental illness is going to cost the global economy $16 trillion by 2030, and that's pre-COVID. So there's a huge market opportunity, but there's also the importance, as we kind of picking up on Thomas's words, need to look at that, the impact. And it's not just about the growth and the revenue, because as we're changing to this new capital structure where more and more people, especially younger people, millennials and down through Gen Z and eventually Gen C, really want to nurture their capital, we have to focus on founders' ability to be resilient, founders' ability to create organizations where people are engaged and people are dedicated to the products and services that they're developing, because that leads to increased impact and increased revenue. So that's how I came to this kind of crazy story, getting to this point, and we're really excited to be, of course, in Germany.
Yes, it's a good time to be in Germany. We have to say it out loud. But I want to mention something that both of you just mentioned. You know, those, I would say, super founders, leaders, they are the champions. You know, they absolutely know how to deal with a lot of stress. On the same time, Thomas, you mentioned something that for us, maybe it's obviously, but maybe not for the audience here today. We are going through a major shift that it's absolutely started before COVID-19. I mean, let's put it on the table. I'm also quite involved in the European Commission. You know, I know very well what's happening in other ecosystems as keeping me very involved. Also working with the local government here in Germany. We see absolutely new trends coming in, but also a new generation of the investors. And this is kind of like something I want to put a focus here today, because, you know, Berlin is very unique. If you take the DACH area or even like Germany, Berlin is quite different. Yes, we are much more diverse. Yes, we are much more open to the international than other places in Germany. And I want to see, or I want to say that we see more younger generation, which is not 20 something, but 40 something or 40 and up, that they are becoming an investor, that they care where the money goes to, not necessarily only for revenue. Yes, making revenue, but also using this money for good. When it's social, when it's environmental, whatever the topic it is, I think that from my point of view, this is the major shift, because, you know, one of my DNA, or I would say always talking about the gender diverse, which is absolutely important topic, but suddenly we see something together with it, bring something back to the society, make sure that you're also making good with your money. And I want both of you to share your opinion on that. Thomas, maybe you will start.
Okay. So I agree with you that Berlin is unique, but I don't share the assessment that there is a large shift towards any meaningful impact investing in Germany.
You mean it's not coming from Germany. The seeds are not German.
Well, I wasn't born in Germany. I didn't grow up here, but I have a German passport, so I'm allowed to say that. Okay. But Germany is far behind, so you can there's not enough incentive structures for impact investing. So it really is dependent on the drive of the people holding the money. So, as you say, there might be a generational shift that provides exactly this, but from a structural perspective, there's hardly anything, which means that this is anecdotal evidence here, but I have several friends, and especially one who's who's in the process of building a tech-driven impact fund. And the standard answer he gets from German high net worth individuals is, so if you want to do something good, I'll give you 2 million tomorrow. I mean, 2 million in the Hong Kong ecosystem is ridiculous anyway, but in Germany, that's something. And you can go and build something meaningful in Africa or wherever you want. And I never want that money back. If I want to invest, I'm going to take it to a traditional investor because they promise me my return on invest. They have a proven track record, etc. And it is still hard for people to bring those two ends together in their mind, for one, and two, see that there's actually a stronger return on invest in the long term if you invest in impact. And I believe that in other countries there is more structural support, and there's also more understanding of the long-term benefits. Now, but before I close, I want to say one thing that I like about Berlin, and why I think it's unique, and why I think it has absolute massive potential in driving that infrastructural change that I was talking about earlier. When the Berlin Wall opened, there was a lot of influx of people from all around the globe. People from all around the globe that were trying new things in this melting pot of cultures. And they could do it on a low to no budget. So still, I don't know, 15 years ago, if you started something in Germany, it was like in Munich, you would go and raise 500,000. In Hamburg, you would go and raise 50,000. And in Berlin, you would do it on 5,000 or 5, right? So you would just do it. And there's still a lot of that culture here. A culture that comes from an artistic crowd, is more about the social fabric, is more about testing new hypotheses that might fail. So it's much more Silicon Valley-like in that respect, because it's more about the possibility of failing. And you see amazing things coming out of that. The Berlin being one of the most important hubs for distributed ledger technology. Things like the Purpose Foundation that gives us new ways of investing or ownership in companies. All of these things, there's very, very active discourse around all of these things happening in Berlin that I don't see anywhere else.
Thank you for that. Absolutely agree with you. And I think this is why we're here, you know? We all choose Berlin eventually as the place also for our next generation, and for many reasons. And of course, it's taking time, and I agree that Germany is behind. But don't forget, you know, when I came to Berlin, I totally saw blue ocean. And fast forward 6 years, it's definitely in different place. Sure. So I definitely see a positive movement, but comparing to what we see around, I think Berlin is a promising place.
Sure. Absolutely. And I think from my perspective, I agree with Thomas about the investors being traditional German investors. Germany is a very, a society that grows, or the regulations grow slowly. They react very, very slowly. And so investors are like that as well. But you have on the other side, this culture, this scene, this robust civil society that's here in Berlin, that's also driving a lot of innovations and startups, and you can do it cheaper than other places, like Thomas said. And you can really focus on proving your product market fit by looking at revenue first and not having to do crazy marketing spin just to grow, like you do have to do in the US or in Europe. And so that then allows us to think about, you know, we have a social safety net here. If we fail, we're going to still be okay. Not like in the US, if you fail, well, you're done. And so that allows us to take those risks, which I think is exciting about Berlin.
I mean,
I think,
yeah, sorry.
go, yeah.
I mean, I just want to emphasize that I always said, like, you know, to be an entrepreneur in Germany, it's really, you know, it's what I can say. It's like a pleasure, you know, it's a place to, I'm not saying that encouraging entrepreneurship, we're still not there, but yes, it's absolutely a platform to you know, bring new ideas. Absolutely. If you come from abroad and you know what success is about, you are serial entrepreneurs, there's a lot to do in Berlin. And as an Asian entrepreneur, maybe to open German market as, you know, another growth market for your product as well. And I agree with you, you know, I built most of my companies back then still in Tel Aviv, and comparing to New York, comparing to Tel Aviv, Berlin, or Germany, has it, you know, we have public money, we have different layer of support, of helping you to raise your company here. You're right.
To provide that holistic approach, because I think what's something unique about Europe is, at least this is the kind of thesis that we deal with, is about nurturing the capital. It's just not about deploying capital, or like the video before I said, well, just crowdfunding your equity. It's about what's the value added that the VCs and the VC network and the LP network, you know, the investors network is going to provide. And look at the non-numbers. Look at the mental health of the organization, or the impact, and really helping to maximize that impact is something that the ecosystem is rife here with. And I think that's lacking really to a greater extent in the US and Asia.
Yeah, it's a good point. And Thomas, please jump in on this, because we talked about that before. Also, like, you know, when I built my company in Israel, I never allowed myself to think local, because there's not enough market, you know, it's maximum laboratory, but you immediately think global market. And we know what the Asian are very good at, you know, it's a fast growth, it's the numbers, it's the volume, it's the user experience. We know what America is good at, but I think this is the time for Europe. And we see it also coming from European Commission. We also see it from, you know, I would say discussion here between also investors, also family offices. Of course, it's taking time, Thomas, I'm 100% with you. It's also changing mindset, but the sustainability and tech for good is something that I think this is the time for Europe to lead. And correct me if I'm wrong.
I totally agree. I just wanted to ask you on your experiences with the European Union and Commission on that, because I don't have any direct insights. I just have indirect insights into what's happening there at the moment. But I totally agree with the assessment that if I step one step back, there are. If we assume that we can solve the grand challenges that we're facing as humanity, there are essentially three operating models around the ownership of the infrastructure that will accomplish that. There's the American way, which is owned by corporations. There's the Asian way, which is owned by the state. And then I argue that there's the European way, which is owned by the people, turning AI infrastructure, robot infrastructure into a commons as a new foundational layer for a new way of running society is something that could happen in Europe, and where Berlin actually could take a leading role. I don't know how you see that, Mali. What do you see reflected of that in your conversations?
I will be very honest with you. The only reason I actually give the time and effort there, it's because I see that it's going to the right direction. I mean, you cannot say European Commission as a whole, because eventually it's also individual that bringing a lot of their values within. And I would say those individuals that I'm, let's say, integrated with, they are really bringing a lot of, I would say, thinking programs ideas that touching or heavily touching gender diverse, female founders, tech for good, green tech, those topics that even take 1 year before, it wasn't there. It wasn't sexy enough to talk about that. As you mentioned, impact investors are what? Are dumb investors? Are NGO? So suddenly, hey, this is becoming the mainstream, you know? So we are raising a fund, and we know that with this fund, we can bring a great impact. It's not only bringing great revenue to our investors. And right now, what I've seen definitely in the EIC, which is the European Innovation Council, and also the EIF, which is the fund, there is a lot of willingness and focus in this direction. This is why I do believe that these messages cannot come from other, let's call it continents. This is really right now the focus of Europe to lead with this message.
Joshua, what's just your perspective on Europe from your global perspective?
Sure, I think there is really the perspective where Europe will focus on the human first, given the social structure that Europe has, more or less, at least compared to many other countries, and that really is a differentiating factor in being able to deliver services to founders and make sure they have the resources to really nurture that capital. And it's not just profits or perish. I think there's also the ability to, or patient capital is definitely more applicable here, even in instances where there isn't a direct impact link. But I think maybe to Molly's point is soon we won't see that differentiation between ESG, environmental social governance / impact, and normal non-impact funds. That the way is going that we'll have to do that together, because it does make more money for investors, as you mentioned, Thomas, and also a focus on organizational health. It does actually make more money for investors, which has been proven. It's also common sense. So we see that that's coming.
Joshua, what are the feedbacks that you're getting when you're talking with LPs, when you say, hey, this is my VC, this is the plan, and this is what I'm focusing at? It's not even like, hey, I'm going to focus on healthcare venture capital. It's something that it's even more niche.
Sure. It's more niche, but it's also more broad, because we're looking at mindfulness, meditation, psychedelics, exercise, workplace wellness, digital, hardware, software. So it's a wide swath that has nutrition, of course. I shouldn't forget that's one of the largest sectors we're looking at. But all of these aspects have either primary, direct, or complementary effects on your mental wellness. And so LPs are saying, well, why the hell hasn't there been this type of fund before? That doesn't, where is this? And it's an impact fund, that's great. And then we also come to the LPs and we say, are you okay with the fact that we would like to offer you 70% carry as a base, and then up to 8%, 8 additional percentage points tied to impact? Because we want you to hold us accountable, not just for the financial return, but also for the impact return. And LPs really appreciate that we can have the discussion in the very first meeting to say, we're aligned in our vision. And so we don't have to do the diligence process. And at the end of the day, an LP says, oh, we're just really looking at this for the financial return only. I think that's very helpful. It's also helpful for us that we are very frank and honest about what we can and we can't do. We try to use our vulnerabilities as an asset, because then we can't, you can't really, nothing sticks to us. Even if we get turned down or we get, we go forward, we have to maintain like some presence in our focus of what we're doing to try to push the needle forward.
You need one very big success stories. Like in one panel, I even said, imagine female founder that build a company on, I would say, on a size of Google, and it's actually an impact company doing good in a global scale, in a global level, and helping so many kids, families, whatever. I think we need one success stories to make it really a mainstream, because when we started to talk 6 years ago, and even before, when I was still in production line in China, when we talked about the woman part, people thought that we are crazy. When I raised money for my own companies from the other side as an entrepreneur, when it was always pitching in front of male investors, I'm not saying that they're bad boys, you know, but something is wrong. And this is the ratio that we have to change. So it's coming in different level and different channels. But I also see that venture capitals, let's say as the mainstream, and I hope it's not only surrounding me, that they are much more there to talk about diversity in their portfolios and how much it's important for them.
Yeah, I want to bind that back to what I was saying earlier about the incentive structures, the underlying incentive structures. There is something very interesting that happened in Wales 5 years ago. Wales introduced something they call the Future Generations Wellbeing Act, which means that every political decision has to be aligned with the well-being of future generations. They have a whole structure around this, and they have an independent commissioner controlling for that. So I could see, we're saying that Berlin and the European Union are very slow, but once they start implementing something like this for a future generation, then we will see incentive systems coming up that reward diversity, that reward having more positive impact also in a financial way, and then money will be allocated almost automatically in that direction. And I believe that although we're very, very slow in Europe, once a decision like this is made, then things turn very, very quickly. There's a question.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think
yes, Joshua.
Yeah, I think for us on the question of diversity and inclusion, our board is, for example, 7 women and 1 man. Our founders, the 3 partners, are two straight females and 1 gay man. And so our team is 75% female, and we speak lots of languages, and that's great. But that kind of shows that this is coming, and you're seeing more emerging fund managers popping up because they have those lived experiences, and they're not coming from the cookie cutter VC backgrounds, and they're also not path dependent, and they are not living in that box. And so I think that's exciting. On looking at where you can find impact investors in Europe, one important area is the European Venture Philanthropy Association, or the GIN, the Global Impact Investment Network, and then also GITA, which is a very important area that's looking at impact funds in Germany. So I'll just go ahead and answer that question right off the bat.
Yeah, Thomas, this is your time. Why you brought GITA?
Well, we brought GITA because we see that, as I said earlier, there is a strong need for a lot of new infrastructure to do things in a new way, like the things Joshua is working on, like the things you are working on, Mali, that give us the opportunity to use all of the unbelievable goods that we've created in the last 100, 150 years towards making the planet a good place for everyone. And like Salim Ismail, the former director of Singularity University, OpenEXO, he says there's two ways the future can pan out: Mad Max or Star Trek. Now we are at the point where we could choose whether we want to have Mad Max or Star Trek, right? So I'm in for Star Trek, and building that environment needs to have some sort of funding. And currently there's too little funding in that area. The point is, if we built Mad Max, then there's no point in accumulating money anyway, because then everybody's fighting. If you build Star Trek, then the power you might have in that system and shaping that system is directly linked with investments right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we believe it's absolutely crucial and a massive opportunity to build this infrastructure right now. So we want to raise, or not raise, but we're not a fund, but we want to help move that ecosystem from $1 billion funding in technologically and science-driven innovation towards 50 billion in 2030, because that's what we need. And again, the whales argument. I mean, who are we doing this for? Shareholders? No. Us? No. We're doing this for our kids, for our grandkids, and their kids, right? We can end civilization today, or we can create something absolutely meaningful. And I'm in for the absolutely meaningful. That's why we start Gita.
Absolutely.
Very good, very good. And
Beautiful.
I'm happy you started here in Berlin, because we see that the community is growing and growing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sure that also the government will support that quite
Yes.
fast. And we know that, and we see it already.
Yes.
I would say where you see Gita, and you know what, let's not focus on Gita for a second, because it's even like bigger message here.
Yeah.
Where we see this impact investments, venture capital ecosystem here in Berlin in, let's take it for 2 years ahead. Because sometimes we're talking as fundraising, but in sometimes we're talking as LPs ourselves. So we always keep, both things. And of course, as WLounge, let's call it as being the connector in between. I even see much more conversation on that in a different layers of the ecosystem.
Just 2 sentences, then I'll let Joshua take that. But Peter Diamandis says there will be 2 types of companies in the future. The one doing AI, and the other ones out of business. And I add to that, there will be 2 types of companies, including funds, in the future. The one solving for SDGs, and the other ones out of business.
Yeah, clear. Absolutely agree. I think you and it's not just, I think for us, the SDGs are a really important, 17 important hooks that we can hang stuff on. It's so important that we are focusing and that we can have something to report to and account to. But we see that there will be an increase in green funds and social funds and impact funds. Now, I don't think in 2 years the German regulations will be caught up for that, which is unfortunate. And so a number of funds are going to organize in other places, but hopefully together as a community, we can help push that. We're lucky that we do have alternatives when we need to set up funds and be able to do these structures. But I think there's a huge powerhouse. Germany is traditionally an industrial, innovative center, and it will continue to be so, given, at least in Berlin, the low cost of capital, the low cost of living, and the robust social systems. And hopefully when the club scene comes back and the creativity side comes back, then more millennials and younger people who don't have kids will want to come.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But, I want to ask you, Joshua, because this is something I'm actually dealing with. Comparing to other governments that there are, I will talk for a second about the Israeli government. The Israeli government understood very fast that the high tech in Israel will be the leader for the economy. And they really put it in the first priority. Yes, they killed others, but they really put it as the first priority. What do you think we should do here as an ecosystem to make it happen? Because right now, let's say that the German government, the Berlin Senate, are way, behind in terms of understanding the potential here. And we are talking in Hong Kong Impact Summit, and I think it's also a great message because the people need that. It's not necessarily going all the time with the government. This is a very good point.
Yeah. I think it's coming. Go ahead, Thomas. Yeah.
I just wanted to pick up on something Mali said earlier as well. The government is picking up on that. I mean, I'm very active in the Chamber of Commerce, and there's a lot of things happening in the right direction. So I think under the hood, we're faster than we believe. So
sure.
there's
and
2
no
minutes
government is a
left.
monolith.
Joshua,
Yes.
you have the last word. Go ahead.
No government is a monolith, as we know, and governments on purpose are inefficient. They're mostly reactive, and so there are in all governments. Those are the ones trying to forge ahead, the environment and energy and economics. But then there's the regulators. Who want to make sure that everything and everyone is safe, the investors' money are protected. So I think it's about creating where's that space for them to come together and see the opportunity cost of not acting fast.
I want to say that I see it also on us as an ecosystem, as the key players. Sometimes we need to open the eye of the people in the government, show them the direction, show them the way, give them ideas. And then we can help them, because sitting down or criticizing, even like we see absolutely, as Thomas said, and this is what I see also coming from European Commission, that when you are active and involved, and this is goes to any ecosystem, I think we can help them, you know, which means this is also on us as an ecosystem to support and bring the dots together.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah, we are all in this together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas.
I think I'm not sure about the time here. I think this could go on forever. But
yes. We have 1 minute, you're right.
We have 1 minute. So I truly believe that this is one of the most important questions that Joshua just asked. Where is the forum for having that conversation? And I believe it has to come from the people, from us, from those who believe that there is something that needs to be built, that can be built, that is a massive opportunity, both on a financial business perspective, but also on a cultural and societal perspective. And this is why we started GITA, because this is the forum that we believe can provide for this.
Yeah, and a good point. So I would say, because we have a lot of topics to highlight, and I want to keep it very interesting, not only as a Berliner in our bubble, what I would say would be, both of you, a tip when it comes to culture, when it comes to business growth, when it comes to fundraising, for startups that they are outside, they are from China, they are from Asia in general, they are from America, that we know that they are keen to come to Germany, because as also Joshua mentioned, we have the industry, we can check product here. You know, I would say cost and smart people are here and available to do it. And what would be your tip for those young startups, maybe young venture capital even, that want to search for a good investment to access to the ecosystem in Berlin?
So just one sentence that's something that comes to mind. I really love the speed at which people in especially Hong Kong operate, but I think it is not appreciated too much in the German culture. So
not appreciate is very gentle.
So being a little more patient, because you create the appearance of not being trustable. People won't trust you if you're moving too fast. People want to take some time, and so I think that would be my advice. Don't be too pushy.
Sure, absolutely. I think also for me, it's being committed to your purpose and being able to reveal each of the layers as to why you believe your approach product service really will make a difference, and having a story to back that up.
That's a very good point. And I would say, for a second, as someone that was born and raised in Tel Aviv and came to Berlin, which I find Berlin is really my mission, my home, because of so many reasons, but eventually culture is the key. Understand the culture, understand that receiving an answer on email after 2 weeks, it's normal. When, if you take me back 7 years, it was drive me crazy and cannot be. And this is absolutely working in a different, you know, wave, I would say. And on top of it, I think we have to cherish what we do have locally. So people from the outside need to take the time also to learn. It took some time for me also to learn. But
I know,
you're
still too fast.
You know, you cannot change
Just
your
kidding.
own
Just
team
kidding,
and personality, but you can adapt.
Just kidding.
Yes, and don't forget, I have the best people around me. Even
No,
during
I think it's important. I think it's important to push the envelope. Absolutely, right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, be careful with that speed. I mean, understanding that this can be perceived as too pushy, and then work with it. Yeah.
It's a good point. Am I too pushy?
No, you're not.
Okay.
You're just Israeli. You're just Israeli. Don't worry.
Yeah. Sometimes I need to apologize. I'm Israeli.
No, don't worry.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. That's great.
Any final words from your clever and great experience?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting us.
Yes, thank you. It's been great to highlight what's happening here in Berlin and Germany, and also forging that bridge to Hong Kong and Asia and the rest of the world.
Yes,
Always.
absolutely.
And we do have Asia Berlin Summit on September coming up here in Berlin, online and offline. And we are very looking forward. Again, it's on us. It's on us to bridge it, to bring our network, to bring the right people, to bring the right investors, to connect corporates with the outside world as well, which I have to say, this is the time, because the feedbacks that I'm getting or receiving are very positive and very openness. So if it comes from the German Mittelstand, what we called, or the government, eventually it's on us, the people. And when we are doing stuff, and we are doing stuff together, we see that the feedbacks and the movement, you know, is really taking us forward. So I wanted to thank you, each one of you, for taking the time. And I'm very lucky to have you as a Berliner and to work together to make Berlin really, really significant hub in Europe.
Yes.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Ciao.
再见。